Okay, good to go.
We live?
Live.
Okay, perfect.
Hey guys, a little improv here going on. Sorry we're a little late coming to you. Our camera software went down and we're kind of improvising a little bit. We're going with the iPhone, not our usual professional look, but we're doing what we can to work with you. So, usual format, we appreciate you joining us again. We're going to try and answer a bunch of the questions, a load of questions came in today, which is brilliant. A lot of people curious about our trip down to the PGA show, Cam, and everything we found down there. So happy to chat about that stuff. Anything else that you guys were curious about? You've got us for the next 45 minutes anyway, and just anything you want to ask, any club fitting questions, equipment, swing, anything golf related, equipment related, we're here to answer that. So Matt's going to read out a bunch of them, and let's keep them coming.
Let's get started.
Okay, so let's get started with a question we had about counterbalanced shafts.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about those? Who does it benefit? What's the point of it?
So, counterbalanced shafts, sort of going back a little bit, used to be a secondary piece that was installed into the shaft. So it used to be a sort of a brass plug that was put into the bottom of the grip, and Jack Nicklaus was kind of famously used counterbalanced shafts, and actually now it's built into the product itself. So when companies will make a shaft with a higher balance point, that's how we kind of term it rather than being counterbalanced. It's more just of a higher balance point. It's in order to try and get a little bit more club rotation is generally what we see. It can increase club head speed. Some of the club heads out there, can we see different weights, different head weights?
Different type of head weights. Shaft weights are obviously, very from your driver shafts
for sure,
and wood shafts.
And in terms of trying to balance that club out, so we'll take for example, last year's Callaway Epic weighed in with its sleeve around 203 grams. This year's Ping G400 weighs about 208 grams. So that 5 gram discrepancy down at the furthest point from where you hold it, that adds a lot of swing weight to that golf club. 5 grams is nothing, but when you put it 45 inches away from the handle, it's quite a lot. So counterbalancing shafts can often help with the overall balance of the club. Another person who uses counterbalance clubs right now is Sergio.
Yep.
So one of the benefits of going counterbalance can be to trying to get the club head to accelerate a little bit and kind of get a little bit more width to the downswing. So that's something we see for players who store a little bit too much energy, what we would call the handle draggers, the guys who store the energy and keep it. That lag is only good if you get rid of it at the right time, which is impact. So that can be the benefit of counterbalancing shafts as well.
Okay. Did you guys get a chance to see TrackMan's new club face impact technology at the show? What'd you think versus GC Quad?
It's still quite raw.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's still it's in its infancy for sure. they're they were making a big thing at the show about it, but they weren't really. They were able to show some examples, but it's not in its full form. It's not released yet. Where TrackMan owners can use it. Round the corner technology, they're talking about being able to use frequency to basically record the face of the club, similar way to the way phone waves will travel around corners. So if we're standing at one side of the building and someone else is standing around the other side, the waves can travel. There's a little bit of skepticism right now.
Yeah, we haven't had obviously the chance to try it yet, so we can't do the comparison between the TrackMan and the GC Quad yet. But once the software is available, me and Ian will do a thorough full test, and then we'll definitely post a video on our channel.
For me, it's still measurement, which GC Quad does. It's looking at the club face with its cameras. 4 cameras, 9 lenses per camera. It's looking at the club face, so it sees what impact occurs. TrackMan for me is still not at the right vantage point to really to measure strike point. It will. Those guys are super smart. Frederick Tuxen and the guys in Denmark are unbelievably smart. So hopefully they have figured it out, because it'd be a big benefit to TrackMan users out there. But right now my eggs are in the foresight basket.
You guys fit off 6 irons in the shop. Can you touch on why you do that? Is there a point of fitting off more clubs?
Sure.
Is it feasible?
I mean, I'll kind of put my 2 cents in this one because we have actually made a little change to that.
Yeah.
6-iron has traditionally been in the middle of the set, but that was when the set was a 3 to pitch and wedge set.
Yeah.
That's no longer the case. So we actually see with lofts strengthening as they are right now, I mean the standard loft of the 6-iron right now is probably 28, 27. Some companies are even stronger. So 6-iron is becoming more like a long iron and less like a mid-iron. So this year at TXG, what we've actually done is we've taken all the irons that we would consider players' irons that have a little bit more loft, and we've brought 6 irons in for that. But the game improvement ones, we went to 7s. So the irons like Callaway Rogue, like M3, M4 specifically. M3 is going to be a 6-iron, M4 is going to be a 7-iron. So anything that's considered game improvement, we have 6s and 7s. Okay, so that's the main reason. I mean, for me, a better player, 7-iron is too easy to hit.
Yeah.
I think exactly. For the better players out there, 7-iron you can kind of hide some flaws in the swing and ball flight. 6-iron is not that easy to do that. So that's our philosophy.
What can you guys say about piered shafts? Do you guys pier shafts? Is it worth doing? What's that technology about?
Yeah, I take the piering because I haven't
been exposed to that as much. Curing has high value, no question. We currently don't do it. We handpicked our matrix. From my experience, and I've had a pure machine in the past, and a previous company that I worked with, we had a pure machine. There's value to it, there's no question. The value to me was actually in eliminating shafts that were flawed. So any shafts that had sort of weaknesses in them that would affect the straightness, and maybe the shaft was slightly warped or something like that, it might expose a rogue shaft in the set. Most of the graphite companies and steel companies we use are really the best of the best. So when you use the best materials and the best companies, and their tolerances are tighter anyway. So there's actually less need for shaft curing, like TPT, for example. TPT, the new company out of Switzerland, their radial tolerance, they basically say they have eliminated, for the most part, eliminated as much as possible right now, any spine or strong point in the shaft. So, that radial tolerance is as tight as can be. So, value to it for sure. Always for me, the rule of thumb is the worse the shaft, the more curing can help.
Strixon 565 versus Titleist AP3. Thoughts?
Quite a big difference. If you want my honest opinion, the Strixon 565 is more of a natural looking 6-iron, and the AP3 has got the hollow look, a little different sound, a little different look at address. The 565 we do quite well with here at TXG, one of our top 3 selling irons at both locations. Looking down on it, you kind of see the more player-looking club almost in a 565, but you also get that forgiveness.
Tons of forgiveness and technology built into that.
And the AP3, it's kind of a little bit more for the higher handicaps. I'd say they kind of fall into the same range, but it all depends on look. So the AP3's got the hollow head, a little different sound.
Yeah, quite unusual for a Titleist to get almost go that route. There's quite a distinct difference. It doesn't feel like a traditional Titleist club AP3. It has a slightly higher pitch to it because of that, scoop that's out the back that Cam's talking about, that big cavity. So, they've tried to merge the top line of AP2 with the base of AP1 and try to kind of take the best of both worlds. It will appeal to a lot of golfers, there's no doubt about it. They've kind of delved into the stronger lofts with it a little bit. So, lowered the CG, increased the mass load out, but strengthened the loft to get the ball speed up, so you get the high launch with a little less spin and higher speed. It'll work for a lot of people. For sure. Quite untraditional though for me when it comes to that Titleist iron. It doesn't quite remind me of Titleist irons of old.
Would it be worth changing to the new Rogue for someone who owns the Epic and the driver?
Actually, I was chatting to one of the head pros at a club from around here yesterday. He said, how many people do you think would convert from Epic into Epic Rogue? and my thought was actually a bit less than 10%. I don't see many people changing from Epic to Epic Rogue, and that's not a slight against Epic Rogue.
No,
that's a compliment to Epic.
Exactly.
And how good a driver that was.
Exactly.
I mean, it says itself for Callaway to not replace Epic, but add to the Epic line. So you now have Epic and Epic Rogue side by side, not Epic Rogue and then Epic below that. So, you know, it shows what they still think of it. So the big deal with the Epic Rogue is it's more stable, right? So you can tell that larger footprint, a little bit more saved mass. If you go on our YouTube channel, you can actually see a video of us talking with Dave Neville, one of the lead guys at Callaway, who's an absolute genius when it comes to this stuff. It's actually well worth watching that one. He's got some really great info on the Epic technology and how that translates into the fairway wood and the hybrid and that type of thing. But you know, I don't expect to convert people from Epic into Epic Rogue. You know, Epic was such a good driver. So I don't think many.
Someone who hits their 7-iron 160 yards on average, they use R300s. Should they consider a stiffer shaft based on your kind of general experience?
Tough to say. I mean, that shaft weight, you're looking at 124 grams. So, you know, it's going to be all about the type of swing you have. I mean, I've seen people, you know, you're probably swinging your 6-iron around, or your 7-iron, you're probably swinging that around 82 miles an hour. You're probably on the fence between being regular and stiff. For me, it's going to come down to how much your swing change is playing, whether the weight of that shaft is going to help you with your timing. If it's of any use to you, we don't carry our 300. That kind of shows you how it fits in, you know, with our mindset and the way the current landscape of shafts are. We don't even carry the R300. So I would probably say probably not a great shaft for you. I would generally see that you could probably benefit from going a fraction lighter and a little more stable.
The new Ping G400 and the G400 Max. What are your thoughts on how forgiving it is? Is the Max that much more forgiving? And the 445 cc head, which is the regular G400, is that, you know, still a forgiving enough head in that size?
We've done quite well with the G400.
G400, yeah, for sure.
Driver and hybrid especially, we've done really well since we've got our hands on those. And obviously 445, some guys are a little skeptical. We had G30 was one of the more forgiving drivers out there, and the G400 actually, I think the MOI, or I think it's still just almost as forgiving as the G30, even at the 445 head.
So what's that? The G400 Max is it?
The G400 Max, yeah.
So well, the G400 Max is the most forgiving driver of all time, period. So you know, the MOI is the highest they've ever produced. So the thing for them is, and what I'm hearing in the industry is sort of, you know, why would you choose a less stable one over a more stable one? So where does G400 fit in against G400 Max? Well, talking to the Ping engineers, which we did down at the PGA show, we talked to Eric Henriksen and we talked to Paul Wood, and G400 Max is just an extension of the line. So you've got G400 SF Tech, straight flight technology, you've got low spin technology, the LS Tech, which has been really popular, we do great with that one, and then you've got G400 Max. So there's just 4 heads to choose from. You know, all things are equal, why not have a more stable head for sure? Now, the benefits of the smaller head versus the larger head is more aerodynamics.
Exactly.
That's what they were trying to chase, was a little bit more speed, trying to up the speed a little bit, because G400 was already the most forgiving driver in the market.
Exactly.
Then they made the G400 Max, which became the most forgiving of all time.
Yeah.
So you know, that was big for them. So I mean, they're all great drivers. It's just whatever you need. Do you need speed? Do you need, you know, higher launch, lower spin? Do you need more stability? Probably need a balance of all of them. So just get paired up with the right shaft, find the right marriage, and you probably get a great driver. It's a good line of heads.
On drivers, shaft length.
Yeah.
Is a shorter shaft generally going to help a high handicap player, or have you really noticed a difference in that respect?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you really struggle to find the fairways, absolutely, yeah, going a little bit shorter will certainly aid, you know, the consistency of your driver. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, you just need to look at what happens when you go down to a 3-wood. You often find more face, often hit more fairways, a little bit of loft, a little shorter shaft. If you're struggling with your confidence, 100%. I mean, we carry shorter shafts in our matrix for that reason. We have a few shafts specifically at 44 inches. If someone's really struggling with a driver and they're looking for that kind of between the driver and fairway wood sort of option, we have something for them in there. So yeah, benefits to it, no question, if you're struggling that much with a driver.
When it comes to putter fitting, what do you think is the most important factor in that process? What's someone can get the most benefit out of, improving their aim, improving their speed control? Yeah, exactly.
What is the most?
We see a lot. There's a lot.
Depends what you do the worst.
There's
that's kind of the truth, isn't it? We never see two people the same. So we might see somebody who delivers too much dynamic loft, who needs a little bit of help with getting the ball rolling a little better. We might see someone who can't aim the putter correctly, so some alignment issues. The way the shaft is offset in the head can change what it is. So. There's just certain key factors we look at in a putter fit. We really want to regulate the ball speed off the putter, because that's going to obviously provide you with consistent distance control. We want to see how close we can get you hitting it to the middle of the face. That way we can reduce how much twist goes on with the head. We want to have the best launch conditions, around 1.5 degrees of launch, around 30 RPMs of forward spin. That's going to breed consistency of distance control. So it's not, I don't think it can be put down as one thing.
No, there's a lot of different factors.
We have a bunch of checkpoints, don't we?
Yeah. We go through when we do our putter fits, there's certain things that we kind of look for, and we look at everyone's stroke individually, so everyone strokes the putter different. It's a bunch of different factors go into it.
You'll see people come in and they'll set with a slightly flatter shaft. So as soon as we see the hands go lower and the shaft plane sit down a little bit, we know we're going to get a player who rotates it a little bit more. So we know for them, when you rotate the putter, actually changes where the sweet spot is on the golf club in rotation. So that player, the sweet spot's a little bit more out in the toe versus the guy who has it more straight back, straight through, is a little bit more in the geometric sense of the golf club. All those sorts of things are an influence. So I wouldn't say there's any one thing. We just go through a list of checkpoints.
Golf balls. Thoughts on the Vice Pro and the Snell golf ball?
So I do most of our golf ball fittings here at TXG, and we haven't done much testing with the Vice Pro, but as far as the Snell golf ball goes, I've personally had a lot of success with the Snell golf ball. Players looking for a little bit more control around the greens, looking to provide a little bit of spin with hitting wedge shots. The Tour Snell ball we've done really well with.
For the guys who haven't heard of the Snell ball, tell a little bit of the story. Dean Snell.
So Dean Snell, he was the engineer or the main guy behind the first Pro V1. They're in Kingston, Ontario, just down the road from us, not too far, and then they were nice enough to send us some balls when we were building our golf ball matrix, and we've done very very well with them since we've
exactly. Really smart guy, obviously designed the original Pro V1 and then went over to TaylorMade and was big part of their development in golf ball technology. So yeah, I think his not pitching for him, but I think he saw a gap in the market with the price of golf balls, and he kind of felt like the premium golf ball didn't need to be $65, $70, and kind of thought a $45 price point was more appropriate for a dozen balls. So he kind of developed that ball on his own, and the ball is all. It's all about the user and what they kind of like, and what they like the feel of, and what flight window. I'll give you an example. I played a brand new ball this year at the PGA show. Really excited to try it. Go out and play our first round. So hit nice drive off the first, go down there, hit my wedge shot, look up, can't see the golf ball. Maybe just it's the fact I've not played in a few months or whatever it is. Get to the second hole, hit another nice tee shot. That's unusual to hit two good ones in a row. I get to the fairway again, hit another wedge shot, can't see the golf ball. So what the guys who I'm playing with basically can see is the ball is launching so high, it's flying in a flight window, I just can't see it. I'm looking and it's not there. So that golf ball for me was doing not what I'm used to seeing. So I quickly flipped it out to go back to my usual golf ball, because I'm looking for consistency to flight it through the window where I'm looking, so I can then adjust my ball flight as a decent player. So you know, that golf ball attributes, the attributes of the ball have to be to what you want. So if you look up and see something a little bit different, then you know you're never going to be as consistent as you'd like to be. You're never going to judge the variables of ball flight the way you need to. So come in and test it with Cam. You can see the launch and spin differences. You can feel the differences. We start with the putter, don't
Exactly.
we? So then we start with the putter, go through the wedges.
The wedges, hit some 7-irons, then we finish off with the drivers. And usually at every fit, there's usually one clear-cut winner throughout the fitting process.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, a little bit of technology in golf balls is going to be in the layering of the golf ball and what they call spin separation. So when they talk about, you know, the layers of a golf ball, it's all about, you know, where you compress that golf ball. So with a driver, you're obviously at maximum compression and you're going to compress the ball to a certain part. Well, the designers want the ball to perform a certain way when you compress it X amount. But when you compress it the amount you do with a 9-iron, they want it to perform it differently. So that's how you can get the ball to perform with high launch, low spin in a driver, and lower launch, higher spin with the short irons and the wedges, by having that spin separation. That's all the layering of a golf ball.
Yeah. Good question.
You didn't have a chance to test them much yet, but M3 and M4.
What
do you guys think generally from the little bit that you got to hit them? And
we have our little twist face thing here that TaylorMade was nice enough to provide us with. Personally, I haven't done too much testing. We have an M3 here in the store. We got a couple heads a couple weeks back. For me, being on the quicker player, I tend to hit the ball off the high toe quite a bit, and I did notice the ball tend to come back towards the middle of the fairway instead of that low left, low spin shot that would happen with the closed face. But I also hit some yesterday when I was testing it off the toe with my face open, and it tended to carry. It would still carry, you know, roughly my carry number, but it was a little right for me. But
yeah. I mean, there's definitely there's some concerns about, you know, twist face, and some friends of ours up at the golf lab here in Toronto, done a really cool thing at the weekend, and they actually measured, you know, the I think it was 9 points in the face they measured, so for different loft points, and they actually saw that the head that they measured was I want to say it was something like just over 10.5 in the middle, as much as 14 in the high toe, and as much as little as 8.2 or something in the low heel. So they were actually measuring the extent of the twist, because ultimately we want to know what the loft is in these kind of variable parts if they're kind of twisting this face like they said they have. Because it's actually quite hard to detect that address.
You can't. It's hard. You could tell if you really look, but for me, I actually love the look of the driver looking down on it.
You know, I think with the toe of the driver being sort of peeled back the way that it is, to me it suits a better player because it looks like it sits open because that toe is peeled back a little bit. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a good driver for certain people. And one of the concerns I had, you know, initially, and I'm just being open about the whole thing, is for me, when it came to the slower swing speeds, hitting it in the toe, I used to see a toe strike with people with slower swing speeds as a help. As the swing speed increases and, you know, curvature becomes more violent as the speed, you know, obviously goes higher, then I could really see the benefit of twist face. But, you know, at the 80, 90 miles an hour swing speeds, you know, a toe strike for me was always, you know, reaping the benefits of having that little bit of draw stick.
Exactly.
Leaving that face a little open with a toe strike would actually come back quite nicely. So, you know, we don't know yet. None of us, no one knows yet. I mean, it had a pretty good first few weeks of the tour.
Absolutely, it has.
You know, no doubt about it. The TaylorMade must have been licking their chops when they saw DJ get a win, John Ram get a win, and Woodland get a win, Jason Day get a win. Right, so, you know, I'm seeing a lot of negativity towards the product, but, you know, there's guys winning with it. Would they have won with M1 and M2? Probably. I mean, it's, but there's no, you know, there's certainly...
It's not hurting their game.
It's not hurting, that's for sure.
Knocking some spin off of a driver fitting. So if you want to take 500-600 RPMs off, how would you go about that? Would you use shaft tipping as a method, as this question is identifying, or was there a better way to go about that?
Well, probably not. I mean, shafts influence dynamic loft, no question, but, you know, shafts work like springs. They're you know, their storage of energy. I would look first and foremost to the head if I'm going to reduce the spin. I mean, it depends what we're starting with. You know, if you're starting with a really soft shaft and you're swinging it in excess of what really that shaft's capable of, you know, holding, and yeah, for sure, then you know, you can take more than that off. And then I fit with a guy yesterday, a Cobra Biocell with Rishi. We had a good time yesterday. So he came in, spun his head with the stock Biocell shafts, spun it about 3,500. Put him into an aftermarket, much stiffer profile, and he ended up spinning at about 2,600. Same head, just a different shaft profile. So I mean, you can change spin more than 500, but it depends what you're starting with and what can happen.
Exactly.
So many of these questions, you know, sometimes it can be tough for us to give you an answer to really, you know, it will do, go get it, because they're not black and white. There's so many variables that are influenced.
Hitting up on the driver, or some guys hit down on the driver, which is obviously going to increase the spin rate quite a bit. What loft you're playing, you know,
strike point,
higher loft, you know, could produce a little bit higher spin. It's not always the case, but sometimes that does happen.
Exactly. So yeah, no, without a doubt, shaft can play that part. I mean, looking towards some of the stiffer profiles, Cammy, what do we see? I mean, Hazardous Black is a spin killer.
Tensy Whites is a spin killer.
Graphite's NGP we do very well with as a spin killer. So Acra 2 is the Extreme, the 400 series is very tip stiff.
Very good.
Yeah.
So on that same vein, when you're starting a fitting session for a driver, what do you do to get started? Are you picking the head first? Are you starting with the shaft and building from there? What's kind of the process you go through with a driver?
We'll start with the baseline numbers from the player's swing. So we'll hit 6 to 8 shots with your own club. Then from there we'll kind of we'll take a look at the overall picture and we'll start to pick out the red flags and see where improvement could come from. So if we're really looking at ball speed, launch and spin, we're going to go and pick probably 5 shafts and then another 3 or 4 heads. What we'll try and do at that point is we'll try and limit the variables that we're seeing. So we'll maybe pick a head and work through a few shafts, or we'll work through a shaft and a few heads, and we'll try and keep it as consistent as possible so we can see what the variables that are working. Again, it just depends. If you're looking for less spin, for example, we're probably going to go grab an Epic Sub-Zero. We're going to grab an M1. We're probably going to go grab a 917D3.
LS Tech.
LS Tech. We're going to try a few of those heads, pair it up with some shafts, and see what chemistry we can find. So,
what do you think the future of steel versus graphite shafts in an irons? Do you see there ever being a time where they start to replace steel with a certain new kind of graphite shaft that performs better somehow, kind of like what happened with drivers in woods?
You want to tackle that one?
I'd say no. I'd say no. I mean, I would say that the graphite is definitely penetrating the market more. The upside with graphite's higher. I mean, the strength to weight ratio is better. There's more. You can vary the bend profile when you have so much flexibility with the strength to weight ratio. So, if you wanted to make a shaft that was extremely tip stiff, you can make it way stiffer with a graphite than you ever could with a steel, because you can play with so much material down there that material weighs very light. But I just don't ever see a point like the iron set is not broken. There's really good iron shafts out there, and they perform really good. So, within the tolerances that they have right now, they're able to get the weight where they want it, the torque where they want it, the bend profile to flow like they need it. I think it's working just fine. So I don't ever see a point where the irons are become more graphite than steel.
So we're getting lots of questions about the PGA show, and it's obviously tough when you guys were busy meetings and stuff like that. There was new stuff from Miura down there. You guys took a look at that quickly.
Absolutely.
What'd you think? And how does that, your customer base, what's their interest level with that, and how's that work in fittings for you guys?
In general?
In irons, yeah.
When I was lucky enough to hit the new 501s. Personally, I'm a blade player. I've always liked that traditional blade look, and when I'm looking for a blade, I'm looking for something soft too. I'm not looking for the smallest club, and I'm looking for some little bit of playability as well. Not as good as I was when I was a little bit younger, but the 501s were very good, and there are other lines. They're coming out with some nice putters this year. The guys that work for Mura, and Ian's really good friends with Lloyd and the boys over there, and they are fantastic people. And we're going to bring that. We have pretty much most of the irons right now.
I love them in there, yeah.
And we're going to bring in the new ones once those get released.
For sure, yeah. Mura's really on a resurgence right now. I mean, there was probably a little while there where you saw the same Mura heads kind of being cycled through, and then you know, you probably saw a little bit more press last year on Mura, and that's because they were under new ownership. And like Cam said, you know, we happen to kind of know the new group who are in charge of that, and you know, they're very close with us. So you know, we get access to all that stuff, and you know, Mura's famous for the feel and that type of thing. Yeah, there's a really unique kind of soft feel to hit Mura.
It's pretty special.
Yeah, they have their own way of making heads with a spin weld process that binds the head and the hosel, and the unique feel that comes from that. And you know, there's a legendary process that goes into the way a Mura feels. I mean, everyone has a saying that you never forget the first time you hit a Mura.
No, it's true. It's definitely true.
There's no doubt about that. So, you know, for me, they're going to evolve into a little bit more of a technology-driven product, but they'll always have that, you know, that traditional feel in the look. That MC501, I mean, to be honest, for me, that might have been the product that really stole the show for me.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I tested, you know, all the new things, and currently I'm playing 718 MBs right now, and which I love. I've played Title Science forever, and the 501s. When I hit it for the first time at the Acro demo day, it was I probably haven't felt a nicer iron, a blade especially, in my life.
Yeah, no question. So no. Lots of good stuff coming from Mura, lots of new heads, and we'll offer obviously the full complement of them.
PXG,
yeah.
The hollow cavity iron design. Yeah. There's obviously a lot of controversy with whether other companies copied them, and so you've seen Ping come out with one, TaylorMade came out with one, and Callaway has a hollow head. Is that the Epic, I guess, hollow head design?
Yeah.
So what do you think the influence, do you think PXG influenced those designs? Were they first? Was it something that everyone was developing, you think, kind of at the same time, and they just sort of?
I mean, you know, people were referencing an old set of TaylorMade irons from, like, I want to say it was like the 70s or 80s. They were, I want to believe they were called like ICWTs or something like that. They were actually hollow construction with that insert in there. Let's bring it way closer to our time. If you remember the R9 TP irons that TaylorMade had,
I remember those.
Right? The at 4 iron and 3 iron, those were basically full body hollow heads. This was when was our R9 TP? Around 2010, 2009. That they had those. This is not something that's new. This is not something that PXG have reinvented the wheel. They've done an incredible job. I love the way they've varied the frame in order to produce more ball speed, lower the CG, increase the launch, put in the TPE, the thermoplastic elastomer for vibration dampening. Like I love what they've done, but I don't think they've invented the technology by any means. So no, I think it's fair game with that technology. That's been out there with driving irons and like closed irons. So I don't think there's any foul on that side of things, but I will not be getting involved in that.
Yeah, we're not responsible for that answer.
Yeah.
Last question. What do you think of the trend that seems to be lighter driver shafts, getting lighter and lighter down to 50 grams? Do you see that continuing? Do you think they're going to kind of go back the other way? Is it beneficial? What's the deal with that from you guys' perspective?
In my personal experience, like again, coming in to get fit, but we offer a driver shaft here that's actually 29 grams. The grip's actually heavier than the
almost double.
Almost double than the shaft
50
itself.
grams, 50 grams versus 29.
If you get something that's kind of lighter, what's nice nowadays is you can go with that 50 gram weight, but still have a really stable shaft. Before you have to be almost like a regular, and now you can get the really stable, stiff, almost extra stiff shafts in the 50 gram options, and like it depends on coming to get fit at the end of the day too, and kind of seeing where you lie in your preference in weighted shafts.
Yeah, I mean I remember when Aldila released the Rogue product in the 125 MSI, which is a really high grade graphite, which makes it the tensile sort of structure, makes it extremely strong but light. There was talk then about, well, we can make shafts so much lighter because we have this higher strength to weight ratio. The reality is, when you get into that really, really hot, strong but light graphite, it's quite brittle. So you can only use parts of it in the shaft. And there was a trend towards people using really light but stiff shafts. It's kind of went away again, and we're still back at the kind of mid 60s to mid 70s. That 65 to 75 gram sweet spot for most players, especially at the top level. So we're talking about stiff products. We're talking about what tour players would use and that type of thing. No, I really don't see that being something that's a massive trend at all.
Yeah.
No, without a doubt. So I mean, yeah, there's definitely, it calls upon the highest grade materials out there when you want to make something that light but stiff at the same time.
Exactly.
So and that gets expensive. So when you start sourcing materials, you can only use less of it. Shafts end up like our Grand Desara shaft, retails for $600. It's expensive. So that's just the necessary evil of using that grade of graphite.
You want to squeeze in one more?
Sure.
Last question. So, do you guys fit lie angles in drivers and woods? And if you don't, why? And if you do, is there any point to doing that in those clubs?
Without doubt. I mean, the thing is with lie angle with woods has become less adjustable because we're now using sleeves on adjustable sleeves. So now that we can kind of click in and click out the drivers, it's not as easy for us to bend the loft and lies. Now, when you change the face orientation, you are changing the lie angle. So when that club falls open, it also goes flat. When it goes closed, it also moves up. So there's a range of, normally the range would be 57 to 60 degrees, somewhere in that region. Callaway actually have a sleeve on their unit, and it's got a little red dot on it, and that starts a little bit flatter. So for players who kind of get the toe coming too far up and get the loft pointing too far left, having a little bit of a flatter line is definitely beneficial. One driver that really has that in abundance, you can see how flat the lie angle is the TXG driver. So it can get down as low as, I believe, around 54, 55 degrees in terms of the lie angle, which is really good for the person who kind of hits that a little bit left. So getting that lie angle to sit a little more toe down. Yeah, but it's less adjustable than it used to be. On the TaylorMade truck, we actually used to have a clamp. When the drivers were bonded and had the hosels, you used to be able to put it in the clamp, heat up the hosel a little bit, and then bend it. I remember Retief Goosen used to use a 54-degree burner 08 TP with a heavy matrix shaft, his old Gripmaster heavy leather grips, and you just couldn't hit that thing left. And now it's not as easy, certainly, to get that. So yeah, it's not as easy as it once was, but it's doable. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no, thank you guys, and
we'll be back.
We'll be back next week with another edition of our Q&A.